the untold story of Apple. Apple Inc., from garage startup to the world's most valuable company. In the world of technology, few companies have left as deep an imprint as Apple. From humble beginnings in a small California garage to becoming the first company valued at over $3 trillion, Apple's journey is one of vision, innovation, struggles, and triumph. This is the story of Apple Inc. and how it changed the world. 1. The Garage Days, 1976 to 1977. April 1st, 1976. Apple was founded by Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne in Los Altos, California. They worked out of Jobs' family garage, assembling their first computer, the Apple I. Unlike other computers at the time, Apple I came as a fully assembled circuit board. It still lacked a case, monitor, or keyboard, but it was a breakthrough. Price: $666.66, and only about 200 units were made. Ronald Wayne sold his 10% stake after just 12 days for $800, a decision that would have been worth billions today. 2. The first breakthrough, 1977 to 1980. Apple released the Apple II in 1977, one of the first highly successful mass-produced personal computers. It had color graphics, expansion slots, and it was user-friendly. Sales skyrocketed. Schools, hobbyists, and businesses bought them. In 1980, Apple went public on the stock market, creating hundreds of millionaires overnight. It was the biggest IPO since Ford in 1956. 3. The rise of the Macintosh, 1980 to 1985. Apple tried to expand into business computing with the Apple III, 1980, and the Lisa, 1983, but both struggled. Then came 1984 when Apple unveiled the Macintosh. Launched with the legendary 1984 Super Bowl commercial, directed by Ridley Scott. The Mac introduced a graphical interface, icons, and a mouse, something revolutionary at the time. However, sales were modest, and tensions grew within Apple's leadership. In 1985, after a power struggle with then-CEO John Sculley, Steve Jobs was ousted from the very company he founded. 4. The Lost Decade, 1985 to 1996. Without Jobs, Apple struggled to find direction. Competitors like Microsoft's Windows operating system and IBM-compatible PCs dominated the market. Apple released products like Newton MessagePad, 1993, an early PDA with handwriting recognition, ahead of its time but ultimately a flop. Multiple Macintosh models, but their naming and pricing confused consumers. By the mid-1990s, Apple was bleeding money and on the brink of bankruptcy. 5. The Return of Jobs, 1997 to 2000. In 1997, Apple acquired Next, the company Steve Jobs had started after leaving Apple. This brought Jobs back into the fold. One of his first moves, partnering with Microsoft, shocking many. Bill Gates invested $150 million in Apple, giving it a lifeline. Jobs simplified Apple's chaotic product line, focusing on a few core products. In 1998, Apple introduced the iMac G3, designed by Jony Ive. Its colorful, translucent design made computers fun and desirable again. Apple was back. 6. Reinventing music and media, 2001 to 2006. In 2001, Apple released the iPod with the slogan, 1,000 songs in your pocket. It transformed not just Apple, but the entire music industry. The iTunes Store 2003 followed, allowing people to buy songs legally online for 99 cents. In 2006, Apple unveiled the MacBook Pro, merging its laptop line into a sleek, powerful brand. Apple was no longer just a computer company. It was becoming a consumer electronics giant. 7. The iPhone Revolution, 2007 to 2010. In January 2007, Steve Jobs walked onto a stage and said, "Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone." He introduced the iPhone, combining a phone, an iPod, and an internet communicator in one. No physical keyboard, just a touchscreen. It redefined what a phone could be. In 2008, Apple launched the App Store, creating an entirely new app economy. Then, in 2010, came the iPad, a larger touchscreen device sitting between a phone and a laptop. 8. After Steve Jobs, 2011 to 2015. Steve Jobs passed away in October 2011. The world mourned the visionary who put a dent in the universe. Tim Cook took over as CEO. Many wondered if Apple could continue without Jobs' genius. Apple proved it could. iPhone 4S, 5, 6 became global bestsellers. In 2015, Apple introduced the Apple Watch, extending its ecosystem into wearables. 9. Expanding ecosystem, 2016 to 2020. AirPods, 2016. Wireless earbuds that became a cultural phenomenon. Apple Music, Apple Pay, Apple TV plus 2019. Services became a huge part of Apple's revenue. In 2018, Apple became the first company valued at $1 trillion. In 2020, Apple introduced Apple Silicon with the M1 chip, moving away from Intel. Macs became faster, cooler, and more efficient than ever. 10. The Age of Innovation, 2021 to 2025. Apple continues to refine the iPhone, iPad, and MacBook lines with yearly improvements. iPhone 13, 14, 15, 16 brought features like cinematic mode, dynamic island, and satellite connectivity. In 2022, Apple introduced the Apple Watch Ultra, designed for explorers and athletes. In 2023, Apple unveiled the Apple Vision Pro, a mixed reality headset, marking the beginning of spatial computing. By 2023, Apple reached a $3 trillion valuation, the most valuable company in history. Apple is also focusing on sustainability, aiming for carbon neutrality by 2030. From a garage in Los Altos to boardrooms across the globe, Apple has changed how we work, how we play, how we communicate, and even how we think. Its story is not just about computers and phones, but about challenging the status quo, redefining industries and shaping culture. As Apple moves into augmented reality, artificial intelligence, and beyond, one thing is certain: its journey is far from over.